Welcome to How I Make My Digital Art Look Like Paper Art, Take 2. If you would like to follow along but you don't feel like drawing anything new, which I understand, I will have links in the description down below to the head of the chibi that I'm working on, and maybe some other things down there if you wanted to follow along. Alright, the first step, which I believe is the first step to most of your art, would be to sketch it out. Don't worry about making it super clean. You're not going to be using any of it. So rough sketch, keep it simple. If you're doing a very complicated character design, try to simplify them a bit. Just know that pretty much every different color or every different piece of their design is going to be its own separate layer. You're going to have a lot of layers for this. So try to keep things as simple as you can. Hey, if you want to go big, that's totally fine. But for your first time, maybe something simple. The next step is to actually fill out the shapes. So on a separate layer for each color, you're going to trace over the sketch and fill in that shape. So I start with the skin usually. The head is, or okay, the head. I start with the head. I don't know, saying it that I start with the skin sounds weird, but I start with the head, and then the head is skin color, right? So I'm going to do all the other skin color pieces on that same layer, normally. Sometimes if I do have two skin layers on top of each other, so let's say the character is doing a peace sign and the peace sign is kind of going over their forehead, I will do the hand on a separate layer on top of the original skin layer, and then that one will be like a slightly different color just so that you can see it, because this piece is not going to have any line art. It'll have some shading, and the shading will help distinguish the different pieces, the different shapes, but just because it is kind of not vague but not very noticeable, it's very whatever, I do try to make a new layer and then change the color just a little bit. So do all of that. Do that for like every color, right? This is why I do recommend to have your characters or whatever the heck you're drawing to have simplistic designs. For example, the character I'm working on, it's just my persona, right? I usually, when I do my own paper art for myself, her hair will take 4 to 5 layers. That's before I do all of the actual cardstock layers that we'll talk about afterwards. But 4 to 5 layers for this piece, because I'm sharing this with you guys. If you want to practice with this, I'm only using 3 layers, so it's a very, very, very simplified design, hair design for her. But I don't even know where I was going with that. There are some times where I do use one layer for multiple different pieces, different colors, and that's usually for the smaller pieces. So for like the details, that's usually like sparkles, blush, just the finer details, right? So I'll usually have that on one layer. And speaking of finer details, once you are finished with the bigger shapes for your piece and you want to start doing the face or the details on the clothes, that's usually when I bring my sketch layer to the top, and then I set that to multiply. I lower the opacity, and then I start working on the finer details on top of that. Organization. I cannot stress how important organization is for your layers. Let's get into that. You know what? That is step 3. Step 3, which should be step 1, but step 3, organization, baby. You need to keep things organized. Oh my god. If you can, find it in your heart to name every single layer. I cannot stress enough how helpful that will be. If you're too lazy to name them like me, sometimes what I'll do, and it depends on what art program you have. I am using Clip Studio Paint. I haven't used anything else for a while, okay? But Clip Studio Paint does let you color code your layers, so you can actually go to the very top, or not the very top, but in the layer window, there's a little change palette color option, and I usually use other color, and I'll eyedrop pick the color of like that layer, right? So like the hair, 3 different hair layers, they're gonna be each a different shade of brown depending on what shade of brown that piece is. Sometimes I still name the layers. I do my best to name my layers for my digital art, paper art stuff. I do my best. Another big tip that I would like to recommend, again, I don't know if this is a feature that is included in every art program, but at least with Clip Studio Paint, you can use folders for your layers. You can yeah, organize them through folders. I'll put, everything. The hair will have a hair folder. The clothes will be in its own clothes folder. And so everything, I can like have everything nice and compact. Not every single layer is visible because that does get overwhelming, at least for me personally. And so folders are so very helpful. Highly recommend using them, at least for these types of projects. I am going to show you why you should listen to me. I have my other more complicated paper art projects here that I am going to show you the layers for. Here's one of them. This is for my little corner piece that I have in some of my videos where she is drawing on her tablet. As you can see, I have my folders. My folders are color coordinated, okay? What is this? These are my, I don't know. Oh, this is every piece that has to be moved. The face. Here are all the pieces for the face. I have a lot of face pieces. Makeup, mouth, eye color, eye, something else, eyebrows. Whatever the hell this is. Hair. This is all for my hair. All of this is for the hair, okay? I cannot stress enough how this is for my socks. I have 2 socks. Count them, 2 socks. All my layers for my socks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers for my 2 socks. What is this? I don't even know what these layers are, honestly. Yeah, keep everything organized. Moving on from that, because I don't want to stress you out. We're keeping it simple here. It's okay. Don't worry about it. The next step is the fun part, which is to actually make it look like paper art. So I actually have a real life cardstock collection that I just bought from years of collecting from, Michael's and Joann's and all the other. Actually, those are the only 2 places I buy from. So Joann's is gone. Anyways, so I did just take pictures of my actual cardstock that I have, and I just I'll find patterns that I like, and I usually do try to match the colors up, but I can always adjust it. Again, it's digital art. You can adjust hues, you can adjust layer settings to match colors. You can just do so many things, so it doesn't really have to match the color that you're trying to go for, but it makes it a little easier for myself. So I have enough cardstock that I have a lot of different colors to match. So that's just how I do it. I will have a link to some cardstock that I have myself. I might use a DeviantArt like stash folder. I'm not sure where exactly I'm going to be sharing this stuff, but I will be sharing my stuff. You'll probably want to find a few different options for each color, just because there's a lot of like trial and error to this part. You'll notice that some patterns don't always translate well. Sometimes, depending on how big that shape is, it's not gonna look good. Maybe it's too small for that pattern, whatever, right? So a lot of trial and error. So starting with like the easiest thing that I like to start with, because it's just so fun, is with the hair. So with the hair, I'll usually find like I said, this is 3 layers for the hair, so I'll find 4 to 5 different patterns, usually brown, but sometimes different colors that I can adjust, and I will go onto a layer. Let's say for the fringe, we're gonna go to the fringe layer, and then make a new layer on top of that layer, right? After we make that new layer on top of that, we're gonna paste that, whatever pattern, whatever cardstock you wanna use, into that layer. Once you do that, you're gonna wanna go to that option. There's a layer option right here. What is it called? It's called Clip to Layer Below. Yep, that is the name of the button. Clip to Layer. You're going to clip that layer to the bottom and to the layer underneath it. And what that's going to do is that whatever is on that layer that you're on, wherever that pattern is on, it's only going to be visible in the pieces that are in the layer underneath. As in, I'm really bad at explaining things. I am not a professional. I've been doing this for many years, but I have not gotten any better. But you'll see. You'll see it yourself. You'll see what that does. So you're gonna do that for every single layer. You're gonna do a layer on top of that, put whatever pattern, whatever cardstock you want to put in that layer, and then clip it to the layer underneath. I usually, depending on the layer colors and all this stuff, I adjust the layer settings to like multiply, sometimes overlay. Play around with the colors, with the layer settings. It's gonna take a while, but it's I think this is the most fun part of the whole process. This is what makes it look like, paper art. And you can get creative. You don't only have to use cardstock, which you're not using, but you know what I mean. Think of anything like washi tape, buttons, paper clips, stickers, like whatever you can use. You can add that to your digital piece. I have a little button collection thingy that I took pictures of along with my cardstock that I have in that folder. I'll include that as well. But I like to add that just to make it look a little bit more realistic. Sometimes I like to use colorful paper clips as like little hair clips, like as bobby pins for my characters. The background, sometimes I'll use lined paper for background. Sometimes I'll use corkboard background, like as if the character is being hung up on a corkboard. Get creative. Future me here jumping in to say that you don't actually have to use actual paper or cardstock to make your digital art look like paper. You can get away with either using a digital pattern or drawing your own pattern and then adding a paper texture on top of that, or maybe adding like a noise filter, like a slight noise filter could, do the trick as well. I know the example on the screen is not great, it doesn't look awesome, but like if you just spend a little bit of time and put a little bit more effort than me, it'll do the trick, it's fine. Don't stress out too much about it, it's just art. Moving on. Next step, shading. This is the important stuff. This is what's gonna make it really look like paper art. Besides the patterns that make it look like paper art. Shading. You are going to want to add soft, subtle shading for a more realistic look. I usually don't use the airbrush tool for my shading. It's very, very rare that I do. And it's gonna be for my digital paper art. That's like the one reason when I use it. One time I used the airbrush tool for shading, but you don't have to. You can use anything pretty much. That's just what I use. I use that for most of it, and then I do go with a softer brush. So I use like the flat pencil. The flat pencil is super soft, and I'll use that for the very like sharp edges, not sharp edges, it's sharp shading that's usually very, very small, very tiny, like hard to see, but it makes a difference to myself. So I'll use that for like the sharper ones. If you have a character that has a lot of shading in their designs, maybe they have like under eyes, like a shade under their under eyes, like bags, or I don't know, just stuff like that, right? Use a colored pencil brush, add that on top, make it look traditional, I mean, you don't have to though. You don't have to. You can make it look digital. I don't care. It's your art. If you don't want to use a colored pencil looking thing or a watercolor or pen, pencil, whatever, you can make it look digital. It's your art. I'm just guiding you. I'm just like helping you out, but do whatever you want to do. I personally use like colored pencil looking stuff for certain things to keep it in that traditional looking field, okay? I don't know how to talk. The shading is pretty much the last part. It does put the whole picture, the whole piece together, in my opinion, after you do the shading, after you do all the details in the shading. That's pretty much it. Like, you're done, you're set. This is the finished piece for my digital art tutorial that you've been watching, maybe. If you do end up using this tutorial for any digital art, paper digital art, and you post it anywhere online, feel free to tag me at lulusloft. That's pretty much where I am everywhere. I don't use Twitter or Instagram though, so you will not find me there. But anywhere else you can find me. I would really, really like to see what you guys make with this, if anybody does use this tutorial for anything. If you want any tutorials from a person who is just a hobbyist, let me know in the comments down below. Anyways, thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys eventually. Bye-bye!